Good evening. Are we live? I guess. Good evening and welcome to the January 13th, 2026 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. If we can have a roll call, please.
Messina.
Here.
Ingalls.
Here.
Jamtoss.
Here.
McCracken.
Here.
Fleming.
Here.
Ward. Coppice.
Okay. If you can join me in the pledge, please. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And need approval of December 9th, 2025 commission meeting.
I motion we approve the December 9th minutes as presented.
Thank you. I have a first.
Second.
I have a second. Any opposed? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. At this time, any public comment other than anything that's on our agenda tonight, if you wish to come up? Hear none? Yes? No, we're good? Okay. Staff comments.
Okay, good evening, Commissioners. A few updates for you. So the County Board of Commissioners did approve our area of impact, which allows annexation requests to move forward. So we met the December 31st deadline, so that's good news. And you have annexation requests before you, so that'll be able to move on to City Council, depending on how that goes this evening. And then in March at our meeting, we'll have a PUD amendment request. There's minor modifications being requested for the Mahogany Lane PUD, so you'll see that coming before you, and a zone change off of Fruitland. So those are the two items.
I thought I heard you say March.
I'm sorry, February. Sorry, I wrote down March, but yes, thank you, February. Thank you. Catch me on that one. Okay, the other item that I wanted to bring to everyone's attention is a code section that we have, Municipal Code Section 111010. CRP 5, it states, a speaker shall not be interrupted by members of the hearing body until his time limit has been expended or until he has finished his statement. So this is for any of the city's commissions and city council. So when we have public hearing items and we have the 3 minutes allocated, the speakers will be allowed to speak the full time, and then if there are questions, then the commission would be able to ask it at that time. So just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention. That's all. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Commission comments? Hear none? Okay, going into our public hearing. It's a proposed 1.937 acre annexation from county ag to city R3, A-1-26. And Barbara's going to give us a summary.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
Can you hear me okay? All right. As mentioned, tonight we have before you two concurrent.
Mic's not on.
You can't hear me?
No. We bumped the mic.
Mike? Hello? Is that better? Oh my gosh, okay.
It's very
I'm
quiet.
gonna have to lean in.
I'm not sure they hear.
Mike, are you able to increase the microphone level at the podium, please?
And kill the lights. That'd be great.
Is that good? Is that better? That sounds a little better.
A little bit.
Okay. All right. So we have two things to look at tonight. We have an annexation request as well as a subdivision request. They're both going to be running concurrently, so we're going to cover both of them tonight. The applicant is Aspen Homes in Coeur d'Alene, consultant Olson Engineering from Post Falls. Location is 2739 North Thomas Lane. All legal notices were sent out on time. All right. We have before us two decision points. The first one has to do with the annexation. You're going to have separate findings for each of these as we go through. The annexation has to do with the 1.937 acres in conjunction with zoning approval for the county agricultural suburban to R3 zone. And then as well as a subdivision, which is a 4-lot, 1-tract preliminary plat, includes a private driveway, and it will be known as Mountainside at Canfield. It is important to note here that your role in the annexation process is just for the recommendation to council on the appropriateness of R3 for this subdivision. A little background information for you. Here's the location map, and you can see Here's 15th here. Here's Thomas Lane, so it's basically at the end of Thomas Lane, and then here's Shattuck. The city limits are shown in green, so you can see that it's right on the edge of the city limits. The subject property, you can see just some local streets for context. Miners Loop is here to the west of it, as well as Thomas Hill Drive. Thomas Hill Drive is also here, and then this is Thomas Lane. I also took a picture of this property right here so you can kind of get a feel for what the neighborhood is like. So this home that you're looking at is this view right here. This was what I would call an out-of-character use previously. The adjacent development is off to the right, so we've got a single home in the county. This was also in the county, and this is the property that we're talking about this evening. The existing county map is right here. So all that you see in green is Kootenai County Ag Suburban, which is currently the portion that they want to look at annexing. You can see the city limits here. It's good to know existing again is 1.937, and it is contiguous to the city limits, and it is also within our area of impact. You can see here the zoning map that came along with the submittal. And I wanted to show here, in terms of they're requesting City R3, and City R3 is what we have all around it. So all the properties to the south and to the west are R3. R3 stands for 3 units per acre. The unit density for what they're proposing here on the property is 1 unit per 0.35 acres. The abutting, I did look at the size of the lots here in Prospector Ridge, and those, there's 7 properties here. They go from 0.76 per unit to 0.48 acres per unit. So you can see that what's proposed is right in that same range. What does R3 zoning mean? It means you have to have a minimum lot size of 11,500 square feet, and a 75-foot frontage. The permitted use for this area is single-family dwellings. The size of the lots that they're proposing would allow for basically 1 house per lot, so they're not oversized lots. And if approved, the applicant is also requesting that they'd be extended water and sewer. We're going to be looking at 4 required findings for the approval. Rather than reading these here, we're going to go through them one by one. Finding 1 for the annexation is this approval in or not in conformance to comprehensive plan policies? We're going to look at 2 sections in particular, place types as well as goals and objectives. Regarding place types, the place type, as you can see here, here's the subject property, is called single-family neighborhood. As you can see, everything around it is also single-family neighborhood, and as we mentioned already, it is contiguous right with the city limits, as you can see there. This is the same map, just a closer view, showing you some road names, not that you can read them, but you can see again the subject property is well within the surrounding single-family place type. In terms of what is a single-family neighborhood, you can see here it's identified as lower density housing areas, single-family homes and larger lots. Supporting uses would be neighborhood parks and recreation. I want to make a note here too. Compatible zoning for this place type, single-family neighborhood, is R1, R3, R5, and R8, and the applicant has chosen to go for R3, so it is at a lower density. In terms of transportation near the property, it is adjacent to bicycle network as well as walking networks. Because it's out on the edge of the city property, you can see that it does not have much facility for transit. So let's look at the other section of B1 finding, has to do with the goals and objectives. So I listed off several you're going to see in the next couple slides, but as you know, as always, these are curated by staff. If there's other goals and objectives that you'd like to add, you certainly have that opportunity, and those are in your staff report. The ones that I've identified is an informed and responsive and involved community discussions. We have had several letters that have come in, and hopefully we have some here today, so the public has been aware of what's planned here. The applicant is endeavoring to provide more housing, which is a good thing for the city. Accommodating quality infrastructure, they are going to be doing all the improvements on Thomas Lane, which will improve what is there now. And then there will be, you're going to see this in a moment, there's provision for fire and other emergency services as well as police. So before you tonight for finding B1, again, does it correspond to the comprehensive plan in regards to place types and goals and objectives? That's what you get to decide. Does it or does it not? The next finding is B2. Are the public facilities and utilities available and adequate for the purposes? We're leaning heavily on the staff comments here, and all of the city staff has reviewed this. Streets, engineering, water, fire, parks, and wastewater all have reviewed it and have determined that there are indeed public utilities available. We did add, it says 13 here, we actually added a 14th today, so there's actually 14. It's incorrect, it is correct in the packets that you have, so Tracy picked that up, I just didn't pick it up on this slide. So there are 14 conditions that we have recommended. And so the evaluation will be for you, Commission, have they or have they not met the requirements for public facilities? B3, are the physical characteristics of the site, are they suitable for this request? What we're looking at here is the existing site and adjacent properties, as well as the environmental site assessment. This is a photo of the property, so I'm standing on the north end of the property looking south towards Thomas Lane, and as you can see, it's been recently cleared. They do have an independent environmental site assessment that was done. In that assessment, which you have a copy of in your packet, at least a summary, it states that there was no current concerns. However, they did state that when soil starts getting disturbed, they want to have an inspector on site. So you're going to see this condition 13 is for us to make sure that during the building permit time, soil testing reports will be required. I also spoke with DEQ, and I've asked their recommendation on if there's any other remediation that we should be doing. At this time, they said no, but they have looked at all of their records, and they are going to be putting together some guidance for us that we'll be presenting, if approved tonight, if it goes to City Council. Any other DEQ's recommendations would be included, and we've added, that was the one that we added as the last condition. So that's condition 14, that anything that they come up with, we'll make sure we adhere to. The next photo is, now I'm standing on Thomas Lane and I'm looking north, so this is the property to the north, properties to the west, and you can see a little bit of the side yard of the property to the east. I think of note is that these are the properties to the west, so I'm standing on Thomas Lane looking north, and there is quite a bit of grade differentiation between these properties to the west and the subject property tonight. This is standing again at the entry, and now I'm looking west so that you can see these improvements along Thomas Lane. And as you see in a moment, the intention is that those would be continued across Thomas Lane for the full extent of the property. So for you commissioners, finding B3, are the physical characteristics, are they suitable for this request? Looking at existing site conditions, the fact that there was a site environmental assessment report provided, staff has conditioned it that there will be soil reporting on any building permits issued, as well as coordination with DEQ. And last but not least, for annexations is finding B4. How will this proposal adversely affect surrounding neighborhoods in regards to traffic, neighborhood character, and existing land use? We're going to look at those one by one. There was a traffic look by our city engineer, and you can see the details there. Because it's such a small use area, they're only proposing 4 new homes. There should be no effect, and so he's saying he has no objection to the annexation as proposed. Finding B4 about neighborhood character. This is the general land use map, and you can see single-family dwelling is all around this area, and north, south, and west. Neighborhood character, here's a view of property Prospector Ridge, and then what I've done is I've just overlaid what the proposal is. You can kind of see side by side the size of these lots compared to what's adjacent. And what you're going to see here in a moment, this is the private driveway that's going to be serving access to those lots. This is a single residence that's still in the county that's east of the property. Existing land use, I took a look at the map. All the parcels to the west that are adjacent to this property vary from 0.26 to 0.48 units per acre. The city south parcel, which is in the city, varies from .29 to .58. East parcel, just east, is 2.9, and the north parcel is 4.9. So by comparison, the subdivision that they are proposing is at .35, which again is sort of in the same range as what the city lots are. So before you tonight is to determine whether or not finding B4 is found in terms of traffic, neighborhood character, and existing land use. So that's it for the annexation. Moving on to the subdivision, we have some more findings to take a look at, and again, these findings have to be found separate from the annexation findings. So this is just kind of an overview background of what they're proposing. So imagine, if you will, north is up now so that we've turned it sideways in this view. So here's Thomas Lane on the left. This is a private access road, and then here are the 4 lots. The lots range from 14.9 to 15.5, overall density of 0.35 units per acre. And as we already talked about, size limits, you have to have 11,500 square foot per dwelling unit. So in other words, that's giving you can only have 1 house per lot, as well as an accessory dwelling unit, as would be allowed in R3. The entry is off Thomas Lane. They have not requested a PUD. Gated communities can only have that if it goes through a PUD, so no gates would be allowed at the entry here off of Thomas Lane. And as stated, they are requesting to be added to city water at their own expense, as well as sewer. And also, we made a request that those would be extended to the north property line, which they're also doing. You'll see that when we look at the utility drawings. All right, the subdivisions that are required for approval are findings B1 through B4. Rather than reading them here again, we'll go through them one by one. B1, are all the generally preliminary plat requirements met and attested by the city engineer? And Chris Bosley did review the plans and has stated that all general preliminary plat requirements have been met per the municipal code. Finding B2, are there provisions for sidewalks, streets, alleys, rights-of-way, easements, street lighting, fire protection, planting, drainage, pedestrian, bicycles, and utilities? So we'll go through, these are drawings again that were in the submittal packet. What you're looking at here is a cross-section of Thomas Lane. So this is Thomas Lane here. They will be adding curb and gutter. They're adding the 10-foot swale and the 5-foot sidewalk, which is exactly what we just saw in those photos previously on the adjacent properties. They're also, here's that property that we took the picture of earlier and what we saw in those photos. So again, they're just carrying that same thing across the full width of the property. You'll also see here one of the requirements of this B2 is street lighting. So this right here is existing street light. So there's street lighting available. This is a cross-section of the private driveway that they're proposing. We're now looking at it looking north. So off here to the left is that steep grade that goes up to the adjacent properties to the west. Rather than doing retaining wall, they've chosen to use a 3-to-1, so they don't have sloughing. So they actually have used 8 feet to get to that 3-to-1 grade. They've got, this is a 33-foot access and utility tract, separate tract, and then it's 24 feet of driveway in the middle. Once you get onto the property, there's a 10-foot swale like you would expect for utilities, utility easements and stormwater swales. We will be requiring that there's a maintenance agreement to maintain all of this at the cost of the homeowners. And again, noted, entry's not gated. So this is the utility plan that we received from them. You can see water and sewer are here. You can see that they're extended to the edge of the property. We did require them to put in this fire service turnaround, which has been reviewed by fire for its usefulness. We required a snow storage space here at the end so they can just push it out and have a place to store the snow. We required them to put in 4 individual common space parking units, so because this roadway is not wide enough to park on the street, so we've provided parking off the street, 1 per unit. Finding B2 in terms of comments, all the city staff did review these plans. You can see the departments that were involved there, and the city staff has indicated there's adequate public services and they're available. Again, that hasn't been changed because I added at the last, but there are 14 now, 14 recommended conditions. Infrastructure that's there now, we've already looked at this one. So to the west of the property, we see this is the swale that they'll be continuing, the sidewalk and the curb and gutter. Facing east, there's only curb and gutter on the south side of Thomas Lane. So where they're going to be continuing that is going to be over here, so it's going to help the drainage off Thomas Lane in front of the property. So the finding before you, I'm not going to read that again, but as noted, the city staff has indicated that the infrastructure they're defining is there, as well as the addition of the 14 recommended conditions. So finding B3 is the next one. Does it meet all the requirements of municipal code? Engineering and planning have reviewed those, and for the purposes of this preliminary plat submitted, all of the improvements have been found to met municipal code requirements. And lastly, B4, does the proposed preliminary plat meet the requirements of the applicable zoning district? As mentioned, it is zoned R3. The proposed zoning is consistent with the surrounding properties, as you can see here. With no PUD, the development must meet all of the R3 guidelines per the municipal code, and no entry gate will be allowed. 4 lots, we've already gone over this, but 4 lots, single-family housing. The frontages that's required for R3 is 75. They do meet that. All lots also meet the 11,500 square feet minimum for R3. And one of the things, the conditions you'll see for planning, rather than having all the setback requirements off the public road, we're going to require that all of that will be off of the private road. So all the setbacks will be from the private road, the frontage will be on the private road. So before you tonight is, does it meet the zoning requirements? Per the planning review, because there's no requested deviation, it has to meet R3 requirements, and we believe that it does. So these are the 14 proposed conditions. Engineering has made sure that they will have a dedicated sidewalk easement along Thomas Lane. They're going to provide a 3-to-1 taper transition, so when it hits where it's not developed yet, there's going to be a taper rather than something abrupt. Planning is requiring that instead of public street, which is what R3 calls out, all of the frontages and setbacks will be from the private street. We're also asking that they add the utility easement shown on the private driveway on the final plat. Water is requiring an 8-inch water main will be beneath the private lane, and also is going to go to the end up to the northern property line, and also requiring a permanent flushing station to handle that because it's a dead end there. Wastewater, they're requiring for the 30-foot shared utility in the road, as well as the to and through, which you're familiar with that. Urban forestry is calling out what it's looking for street trees along Thomas Lane, so we are asking for those. There's overhead power lines as well as a swale, so he's given him some ideas about, talk to us so we can tell you exactly what trees are going to work in that tight constrained place. Fire, this is generic conversation from them. Basically, once they pull permits, fire is going to be reviewing those to make sure it meets all IFC requirements. Building is asking for the independent soil test reports, which we've mentioned, and then also added the compliance with any DEQ recommendations that are forthcoming. 2 decision points that you have before you tonight. One for A126, the annexation of 1.937 acres in conjunction with the zoning approval from county ag suburban to R3 zone, and then S126, a 4-lot, 1-tract preliminary plat, which will be known as Mountainside Canfield subdivision, and access will be off of a private driveway. You have alternatives for both of those. So the alternative for A126 is to approve with conditions, approve without conditions, deny, or deny with prejudice. And you'll find those worksheets in your packet. The action alternative for the subdivision is to approve with conditions, without conditions, deny, or deny with prejudice. Any questions?
Questions above? Go ahead, John.
First, a comment. This is a little bit different layout of a staff report than I'm used to, and staff reports are always pretty great. I think this is really a step above. I applaud the effort. It's nice to have the applicable finding or whatever, and a little kind of commentary next to it. I think you've done a really good job, and I don't know if that's something the whole department's moving towards, a little different formatting, but I applaud that, number one. Questions, I throw this out, it might be a little bit just kind of rhetorical, maybe the applicant touches on this a little bit, maybe you have a comment or two. If this was a PUD, and it's not, there'd be and we've had some really small PUDs, you know, that 4 lots or whatever. If it was a PUD, there'd be a requirement for there to be a functioning HOA. Not required in this case. You know, this kind of looks like a little PUD, but it's not.
The only similarity would be that we are requiring a maintenance agreement.
And that's where I'm going with the question is, and we've approved others in town. I think fairly recently there was one on 4th Street just north of Lunsford, north of Costco there. There's a little triangular piece there, and I angsted a little bit on that one, and I said, well, yeah, I get it. There's a maintenance agreement it's on the plat. You buy the house from the realtor, and it says, hey, you got to be part of this maintenance agreement. But in the real world, you know, do they function? This one guy he becomes the guy that walks up and down the street passing the hat, trying to collect money to plow the snow. Does it actually work in the real world? And I guess if you can say, hey, I'm not aware of any issues from these previous developments with a maintenance agreement, that the phones aren't ringing off the hook at City Hall, that, you know, the snow is not getting plowed and things like that. But I'm just curious how it actually functions.
I would defer to Hillary or Randy. Do either of you have any comments on that?
I mean, I think it works okay, and actually Commissioner McCracken might be able to respond the best.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is only 4 homes, so they're either an HOA or a maintenance agreement that 4 people pitch in, or they're an HOA where all 4 of them are on the board. So I think they have to work together either way. I think a maintenance agreement is simpler for the size of a street, for sure, because there's just not a lot there, other than plowing their own driveways. There's not a lot else to maintain. There's not a park or trails or that kind of thing. So
No, I appreciate that. I at the end of the day, the phone rings at City Hall and it's, hey, it's private property. It's not ours. But I just hope it gets worked out.
yeah, maybe less likely in city limits, but outside of city limits, road maintenance agreement is very common. So
Yeah, thank you.
And that agreement would be probably recorded on each of the properties so that
It would be tagged on
any
each parcel.
purchaser would know that there
Yeah.
was a responsibility.
the title company would disclose it on any future
Yeah,
transfer.
yeah.
So yeah.
Good deal. Good report. Thank you.
Any other questions for me?
Thanks, Laura.
Okay.
That was good.
Thank you.
Just click to go.
Okay. Which one? Left.
Yes.
Left. All right, perfect.
Oh, this was-
Okay.
Hi, Jeremy, I just got to swear you in. Do you solemnly swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
To the best of my knowledge, yes.
Okay, go ahead. Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. For the record, Jeremy Terzulli. I'm a land use consultant here in Kootenai County, collaborating with Olson Engineering tonight on behalf of Aspen Homes. Commissioner Engels, I also recognized that the staff report was incredibly comprehensive, and it sort of makes my job pretty boring because I don't have a lot to add to it. But right out of the gate, I can offer some clarification on that roadway. It actually isn't a private street, it's a shared driveway, so it won't even have like a street sign. So that should clear up some of the misconceptions. To your point, some residents believe it's paved and it's in front of my house and it's the city's responsibility. But as Sarah can attest, on such a small thing like this, it's probably going to be pretty clear that it's a shared driveway. It's going to be built more robust than a street section as per the geotechnical engineer, so that should help clear that up. Pardon me. Anyway, I will be brief and try not to be redundant. I'm going to work backwards through and assume an R3 zoning designation and annexation. I know that's not a foregone conclusion, but just to kind of work backwards through the subdivision first. And a summary, not cut right out of city code as to what the subdivision requirements would be. These are mostly yes or no questions. Does the preliminary plat contain all the essential information? It does, as per the city engineer. Does the plan contain all the provisions for the required infrastructure? All of the things that we see in a preliminary plat. City staff looks over our preliminary plans to ensure that it does. And of course, if something gets missed along the way, we work closely with the city engineer to get that addressed. Does the plan meet the city's design standards? Again, for the preliminary review, it does. And under the R3 zoning designation, do our underlying lots meet all of those requirements? And city staff, their report basically ensured that it did. There was one point of clarification in the staff report where it was sort of the number was transposed where she indicated that it was 0.35 units per acre. The lot sizes are 0.35. The tract is its own lot, so the actual density is just over 2 units per acre, 2.07, the max being 3 units per acre in the R3. So just a point of clarification that I noticed in the staff report. So the subdivision, again, assuming that we were to annex this property with the R3 zoning designation, it's actually a pretty simple review that it does meet all the requirements of the subdivision. So the zoning request, and I do recognize that you guys are going to forward along a recommendation to City Council. They will make the ultimate decision. So is the R3 zoning designation the appropriate designation for this particular property? So first, we look at the comprehensive plan and the future land use map. I felt that the staff report was incredibly thorough in the goals and policies of the comp plan, so I will rest on those. Additionally, the future land use map is pretty clear that a low-density residential out here is the preferred, and in implementing zoning out here, that's exactly what Aspen Homes is proposing. Next, we'll look at the infrastructure availability, and as all the departments weighed in, infrastructure is readily available. Infrastructure extensions will be done at the developer's expense. It'll be warranted and then handed back over to the city. Additionally, infrastructure will be pulled to and through to the north property boundary so that if that property ever annexes in or will be developed out, that we don't hamstring those people. That developer, if it is a developer, can work with city staff and determine the most appropriate place to loop water lines for fire flows, which way that the sewer should flow, if there should be connecting street networks and the like. So that will all be reserved and dealt with through the platting process. Site characteristics, is the low-density single-family compatible? Based on the site characteristics, I thought staff did a great job with their photos, and we all kind of know this area anyway. It's sort of right in that low spot before you go up the hill a little further on Thomas. The intent there was to not disturb the subdivision to the west, leave that alone, pull it back off of that fence line that's been in there for years, and then reclaim the area further down the toe of that slope and then build from there. And I thought the photos did a good job of representing that. The cleanup on the site is complete. However, the geotech has been back out there to dig some test holes so that we could see if the native soil, get a feel for the native soil. Again, if we assume that some homes will be built there, we would like to know what the soil looks like there. So they dug some test holes. The person that actually did the environmental assessment wanted to be on site that day so they could check the margins in those test holes. Still no concerns. But also the DEQ requirements are going to ensure if we move to development of the site, digging foundations, putting in for roads, all of those best management practices will be met. And if any additional cleanup is required, the developer is going to participate in that. So with regard to impact on the rest of the area, 4 homes on here versus the junkyard that was on here, we believe a massive improvement. The city engineer weighed in. No additional traffic study is needed. It's going to be a very minimal impact on traffic in the area. We're talking roughly, 4 peak hour trips per day. Thomas Lane, built out with pedestrian connectivity all the way to 15th. We're just going to match that street section along Thomas. Then the shared driveway into the development. It'll have very, very minimal effect on the surrounding areas. And then again, consistency with those surrounding areas and not just to hone in on the development to the west. I did pull up this slide right here. So if you look, everything in yellow.
Nope, not at this time. Nope, not at this time.
Thank
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, I have Rodney Walker, who is neutral and does want to testify. Come on.
Yeah, my name is Rodney Waller, and I'm a resident
Oh.
of the Prospector Ridge
Well-
subdivision.
I just need to swear in. Do you solemnly swear and affirm that testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth to help you God?
Yes.
Okay, go right ahead. Thank you.
So I've heard the word density mentioned several times, and I think that's the reason I'm here, is I live probably 150 yards from this proposed development, and everything, I in full agreement. When I heard Aspen Homes was going to be the developer, my wife and I went, bravo, good local builders. The concerns that we have is back to density, and really the topic is ADUs, and I'm in early stages of investigating all this ADU things because our neighborhood is about to have the first one in our neighborhood in the spring. And there's a lot of hubbubaloo because, as you might guess, the people who buy an R3 have a certain density expectation, and ADUs fall outside of those boundaries for a lot of people. So I guess my question would be if we could get some rebuttal from Aspen. Do you plan to have CC&Rs on these 4 lots that would prohibit a second residential dwelling on that? That's my number one question and concern. And I'm not sure, I'm researching right now to know if, the city has a brochure on ADUs that gives the indication that other cities can allow them or not. But then it was raised to me today that perhaps the state is also supporting ADUs at a higher level. So I'm not sure if anyone here could speak to, does a CC&R prohibiting that trump a city or a state allowance for that? So just a question. And soil contamination, glad to see it was in there. It has been a junkyard for decades, and you see a lot of crazy things going on back there, crushing cars. So I'm glad to see the engineers and DEQ people will be monitoring that during the soil disturbance. And that's it.
As far as your 2 questions, I don't know if Hillary wants to address it or
ADUs.
Randy, and then the applicant has a chance to come back up
Okay.
later at the end and answer any questions that might arise from anyone else speaking. So
Okay.
I think you might get some answers, but I don't know if you have anything to add. on
And I
to
did
that.
speak with them before the meeting a little bit. So there are a couple of questions within that. So if a neighborhood wanted to impose CC&Rs, they could, and that would supersede city regulations. So if they wanted to have different, guidelines for ADUs, height limits or design or things like that. But it is possible that at the state level, they could restrict that from being an option. And we do anticipate some legislation coming forward this session that will be pro-housing. So that could take various forms. They're looking at Montana and other states for trying to encourage ADUs and other housing types in neighborhoods. So we don't know what that will look like.
Okay, great, thank you,
Thank you.
thank you. Aaron Ford did not indicate whether you wanted to speak or not. Okay. Deborah Miller does not wish to speak, but didn't indicate favor or oppose. Okay. That's all I have, unless someone else wants to speak before the applicant has a chance to come up to answer any other statements you want to make, or if you have nothing else to say.
Jeremy Terzulli, again for the record. Yeah, just to answer that question, I don't think that the applicant at this point in time, they're going to rest on the underlying zoning and not explicitly prohibit ADUs. That is part of the homeowners here are going to be sitting on large lots. They may have a shop, they may have a child that they want to put in an ADU above said shop or something like that. I don't think they're interested. They deliberately went much larger than the minimum lot size so that these could be larger, sort of estate-ish type lots. So they're just going to, if approved, they would rest on the underlying zoning to dictate what was put on those lots. And with that, again, we respectfully request approval of the subdivision and a recommendation of an R3 zoning designation as we move to council. So thank you very much. Any additional questions?
No?
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to close public testimony on this, bring it to the commissioners for discussion, and hopefully a finding and a motion. Go ahead, John.
Well, I wouldn't call this a no-brainer, but pretty close to that in terms of, everything just lines up with this one. I mean, the comp plan is very clear. The compatible zoning is everything from R1 to R8. This could be a lot more dense than we see here. And recognizing that everything around it is R3, our recommendation to council is just to recommend the zoning. So it's, to me, like I said, it's pretty close to an no-brainer that R3 is the right fit here. And that parcel, in my humble opinion, belongs in the city because, like a lot of other donut holes and Swiss cheese and whatnot, places on the fringe of the city, it would benefit from being in the city. The city manages that road section in front of it. The city plows it. The city sweeps it. The city polices it, fires it, et cetera, et cetera. It belongs in the city. That's just a commentary, but
Okay.
it belongs in the city as R3.
All right, thank you. Findings?
I agree. I think it fits well within the community. All the neighborhoods around it are very similar. Very little impact. It's only 4 houses. I think it's a great improvement from its historic use, or at least the last previous history. So I think it checks all the boxes. Every city department has agreed that there is not an issue with servicing the 4 homes that will come in. So I think it's a great project.
Ditto.
Yeah, I don't have anything bad.
Yeah,
It's a good ad.
yeah.
And
All right.
Aspen does a great job. It'll only add to your neighborhood. It'll increase your values and clean up a very ugly eyesore.
Yeah, thank you. I agree with the other comments that have been made and looking for a motion. Please.
Want to go, John?
Sure, I'll do this one.
Rock
So, with respect to the annexation being A1-26, this is a matter that's come before the Planning and Zoning Commission tonight, January 13th, lucky 13, 2026, to consider A1-26, a request for 1.937 acre annexation from county ag suburban to city R3. Applicant is Aspen Homes and Development LLC. Location is 2739 East Thomas Hill Lane, Coeur d'Alene. So we make a number of findings of fact that the commission here, Planning and Zoning Commission, finds that we've made A1 through A9 findings of fact that are slated in our worksheet here that have been established on a more probable than not basis, as shown on the record before it and on the testimony presented here tonight at this public hearing. So walk through these in summary. A1 is a finding of fact that touches on all of the procedural aspects of the hearing have been addressed and covered with respect to noticing and mailers and all those things, and newspaper legals and all that kind of stuff have been done. A2 is a finding of fact that says we had public testimony tonight that we've heard, and A3 describes the site as a site that's within the AIC, that it's vacant, it's an egg suburban, and it's 1.937 acres. Finding A4 speaks to the requested the requested zoning being R3, with what we see tied to subdivision 1-26 for 4-lot subdivision with a dead-end driveway that accommodates all the utilities, etc. A4 also kind of points out that the properties surrounding the development are all R3, and that's been touched on several times. Finding A5, we addressed the comp plan, which talks about this being a single-family neighborhood place type, of which R1, R3, R5, R8, and even MH8 are all appropriate, this being the lesser density R3, so it's very much compatible zoning according to the comp plan. And A6, as the presenters have pointed out, with respect to the comp plan goals, the comp plan goals and objectives that are addressed in our findings worksheet seem quite appropriate. I would leave it at that and point out that, there's, I think, very good support in the fact that this helps provide, that balance of housing product types and price points. It's a property that is a little cheaper than what we see on the river, at least. So there's that. Sorry for the editorial. A7 is a fact that has been well addressed, that all of the city departments have looked at this with respect to sewer, wastewater, water, traffic, etc. All those utilities and services can be served with no problems. A8 talks to the nature of the site. It's been remediated, but it's flat and really has no significant physical constraints of any sort. And then A9 talks to the environmental site assessment being completed, that supports that there's no finding of environmental concerns there, and there are conditions going forward that further protect into the future as the dirt starts moving, to make sure that those attributes are addressed and any future remediation handled during construction. So with that, conclusions of law based on the foregoing findings of fact, the Planning Commission would make the following conclusions of law. B1, that the proposal is in conformance with the comp plan policies. B2, that the public facilities and utilities are available and adequate for the proposed use. B3, that the physical characteristics of the site do make it suitable for the request at this time. And B4, that the proposal would not adversely affect the surrounding neighborhood with regard to traffic, neighborhood character, and or and existing land uses. So the motion would propose a decision that the Planning and Zoning Commission, pursuant to the foregoing findings of fact and conclusions of law, that we have determined that the requested R3 zoning does comply with the required evaluation criteria, and recommends that the City Council adopt the R3 zoning with the following conditions that are provided in the worksheet, those being the 14 that were provided in the presentation.
Thank you, John, for that motion. I need a second.
I'll second.
I have a second by Fleming. Any further discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Ingalls.
Yes.
Jamtas.
Yes?
Fleming.
Yes.
McCracken.
Yes.
Messina.
Yes. Okay, motion passes. I need a similar finding report for,
I'll do this one.
okay.
This matter coming before the Planning and Zoning Commission on January 13th, 2026, to consider S1-26, a request for approval of a 4-lot, 1-tract subdivision known as Mountainside at Canfield. The owner applicant is Aspen Homes. The location is 2739 East Thomas Lane, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho 83814. The findings of fact. The Planning and Zoning Commission finds the following facts: A1 through A8 have been established on a more probable than not basis, as shown on the record before it and the testimony given at the public hearing. These are the noticing requirements, the testimony given tonight, and a description of the subject property and the conditions contained in the staff report. The conclusions of law. Based on the foregoing findings of fact, the Planning Commission makes the following conclusions of law: that all of the general preliminary plat requirements have been met as attested by the city engineer; that the provision for sidewalks, streets, alleys, right-of-ways, easements, and street lighting, fire protection, planting, drainage, pedestrian, and bicycle facilities are adequate; that the preliminary plat does comply with all of the following subdivision design standards contained in Chapter 16.15 and all the subdivision improvement standards contained in Chapter 16.40 requirements. The proposed preliminary plat does meet the requirements for the applicable zoning district of R3. The Planning and Zoning Commission, pursuant to the foregoing findings of fact and conclusions of law, has determined that the proposed preliminary plat does comply with the evaluation criteria, and the request should be approved with the following conditions, 1 through 14, as repeated in the previous list. We would approve with conditions, and that's it.
Okay, I have first by McCracken, second. I have a second.
He's gonna
I
say.
have a second by Jamatis. And roll call, please.
Jamtas.
Yes?
Ingalls.
Yes.
Fleming.
Yes.
McCracken.
Yes.
Messina.
Yes. Okay, motion passes. Need a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion to adjourn.
I have a motion by Fleming to adjourn.
Second.
I have a second by Ingalls. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned.
Let's
Thank
see.
you.
Thank you.